Just a moment. Okay, we are being live streamed. Go for it, Chair Melanie.
Thank you so much, Adrian. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:33 p.m. And we'll go ahead and do roll call, and I'll start, and then we'll just move our way down the list with position 1 all the way through all the liaisons. I'm Melanie Dobson. I'm the chair, position number 3 for the Library Advisory Board. And Maggie, you're next.
Hi, Maggie Gerhard, and I'm here.
And Randy?
Hello, sorry about that. Randy Mifflin, and I am the vice chair still, I think.
Yes, you are.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Fritz Kalashevsky, position number 4, and I'm the rural representative.
All right, Jane is not here tonight, so we'll move to Steve.
The mute button. Steve Remsen here.
And then Danny.
I'm Danny Sticka. I apologize. I don't know my position number.
You are number 7. It's on the meeting agenda if you ever want to know.
Oh, okay. Perfect. I'll remember that. 7. Thank you.
Is Lily here?
No, I haven't seen her and I don't have a message.
Okay, and then Deb.
So I'm Deb Deers and I'm position number 9.
All right. And then Renee or Councilor Browse?
Renee's fine. I'm here.
And I'm Adrian Doman-Calkins, the library manager.
Great.
I'm Krista Garcia, Adult Services Librarian.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, so Councilor Browse needs to leave early. So to give everyone an opportunity to hear some updates, we'll move council updates up to be the next item. She has one big update for us, and then we'll just go back to the timing after that with library updates.
Okay. And do you want me to go ahead and do the approval of minutes first?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. So are there any changes beside that needed to the minutes? And that's for today's minutes. Are there any changes from the last minutes, or can we go ahead and move to approve those?
I move to approve.
All right. And do we have anybody to second that?
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody that does not want those to pass? All right. Okay. We're fantastic. All right. Councilor Browse, why don't we move ahead to council updates?
All right. So I just have a couple of things that I think will be of the most interest to you folks. One is that there was a House bill that was passed a couple years ago that requires us to look at our housing stock and determine and make room for different types of housing opportunities, duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, cottage clusters, those types of things, to allow for more affordable and middle range housing. So council has been looking at that to determine where we can place those types of housing opportunities and some different standards that might go along with that. So we have to have something ready to go by July 1. We're kind of under a time crunch, so we are working diligently on what that looks like. The other piece of interesting news that I think you'll be interested in is that we are looking to build the pedestrian bridge. And last night at council, we saw 6 different options available for us to consider as a community. We narrowed it down to 3 that will be open to the public to review and vote on. It's going to be beautiful. There's some different aesthetics that can go along with it. And if we choose there's one of them that if we choose, we will be the first in the country to have offered that style of bridge. So I'm anxious to see how the community responds to those options. And I don't have it in front of me, but there will be another open house and surveys will be open soon to look at those designs and vote on. So those are the 2 most popular items for me to share. We've got a lot of zoning updates and code updates, which isn't as exciting as these 2 pieces that I just shared. But if you have questions, I would take them for you.
Do we have a temporary council seat that's being filled soon?
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, Councilor Griffin resigned back in February to concentrate on his family. And we do have 1 seat that's available. There's still 2 more days to put in your application if you're interested in that seat. Council will then do some interviews. We will select somebody to fill the role until the end of the year. And in November, during the elections, that seat will be up, and whoever wants to run for the seat will be elected by the community, and then fill that seat for a 4-year term. Thanks for asking. I forgot about that.
Any other questions for Councilor Browse? All right. Well, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate that. All right, we'll move to library updates then with Adrian.
Thanks. And we're still on time. That's great.
Yay.
Good. So I have a buffet here of library updates. I wanted to share the WCCLS IGA progress. So Lisa Tattersall, manager of WCCLS, Washington County Cooperative Library Services, presented the draft of the IGA, what's considered a final draft that all the member libraries had worked on together. And she presented that to the Board of County Commissioners just recently. They gave a very enthusiastic and supportive blessing to move that forward. It's not really approved yet, but what happens next is that IGA went out to the member libraries on Monday. We got our copy of it, and I just sent it on to the attorney here in Sherwood, Josh Soper, today. So local review commences, and then previously, I think I mentioned already, our city council received a memo that I had helped to draft that had the Sherwood context for that and what the next steps would be. The council members have had an opportunity to review that, and then the Board of County Commissioners meeting, that presentation is recorded. It's available online, so they have that as well. And I'll send that out. There's an attachment too that goes with the IGA that is a nice summary of it. So far, it's all been very positive locally. We're asked to review this. Hard deadline is May 20th to give WCCLS our confirmation that we're prepared to sign the IGA. We have right now suggested that the May 3rd City Council meeting would be a good one to have this on the agenda. So that's approved by the mayor. The agenda is set by the mayor. If it happens on May 3rd, I don't know yet whether it would be a work session first and then vote on it or not. Historically, it's been consent agenda, which means it's just approved with everything that's being approved that day. That doesn't require discussion, but I anticipate there may be some discussion at least, perhaps under new business. So that's happening. If it doesn't happen May 3rd, then there's still time in the schedule to do it the next city council meeting, which would be May 17th. We would still be on schedule if that happens. So all good news. That is moving forward, and then the signature process and everything would commence in June, and again, it goes into effect in July. And that secures also our main funding source from Washington County. Any questions about the IGA? So we've talked about it so much, and here it's in the final stages, and just it's going really smoothly. I'm very pleased about how smoothly it's going so far. Okay, so I'll switch gears to the budget. The local City of Sherwood budget process is going. I submitted my budget projections, which is for the current fiscal year that ends June 30th, just to say, here's what we know what we were approved for, what we asked for. Here's what we've spent so far. Here's what we expect is going to happen for the remainder of the year, and have some more accurate numbers since we're further into it. And that all looks good as well. So we're under budget and everywhere we want to be, and at budget where we expect to be. Nothing's over budget. That no problems. And so that's all in. The budget narrative, or the part where we talk about the goals and so on, that's all been submitted. It's very similar as last time. The budget requests for next year, the one that I submit to my supervisor and then it goes up the chain, that's due at the end of March. And so that's my next job, is to get, I have pieces of it that I'm working on, but I need to get that all finalized here soon. So that's all looking good as well. So the budget meetings, I think you heard me say previously, they used to be 1 week apart in May, and this year we're doing something different. The city is doing May 30th, May 31st, and June 1st, so 3 days in a row. And those are public meetings. Speaking of public meetings, maybe can I just slip this in? I wanted to talk about meeting in person. These budget committee meetings, I believe, are going to be in person. City Council is going to meet in person. Is that right? Or you just met in person for the first time yesterday? Is that right, Councilor Burrows?
Yes, yesterday was our first meeting. And
Yeah.
the plans for the budget sessions are to be in person at this point in time.
Right. And so my understanding is all the boards and commissions will be asked to have their April meetings in person. For us, since we're third week of April, there'll be a number of boards and commissions that go before us, and I'll know a lot more about logistics. As previously mentioned, we do need to make room for public comment for that to come in via phone or video. And so there's some tech issues. I don't know, Steve, you asked last time about could members do it from home yet? And I've asked that question. I don't have a final answer yet. I was wondering if any counselors did it, but it sounds like everybody was on site who was actually an elected official.
We were on site, but we have the option. I was actually expecting one of us not to have been in person. So we do have that option if we need it.
Okay.
Is that by video or just by like old-fashioned teleconference?
No, it's by Zoom. It was pretty fascinating last night to participate because we had a monitor in front of us and then a monitor literally in front of us with the Zoom faces, and then there was a projection in the back behind us of the same thing. So it was all around us. But then in order to find out if any of the public had comment on Zoom, staff had to walk into the back room. Are there any comments? And they come back up. So there's a little bit of chunkiness, but it flowed. It worked okay.
And I don't know yet how much IT support there would be for our meeting, whereas council gets like all the IT support, right? And I don't know if they'll be available to do quite as much for us or not. So Stephen, I'll keep finding out more about whether that will be extended to us as well. Let's see. So I think that's all I wanted to say about budget. That goes into effect in July. And then switching gears for current and upcoming events, I'm going to let you know. So for today, for event, this is for me, it wasn't a public event, but I had been invited to be interviewed on a podcast, which was a first for me, for a library related podcast. Yeah. And it was from the Oregon Library Association, and they have a subcommittee called the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Anti-Racism Committee, or EDIA committee. Thanks, Stephen. So I got to speak about the work that we've all been doing. I got to say what a great board we have and how supportive you all are about our equity work, and had some examples and so on. It'll probably be edited to be about half an hour, a little less than 45 minutes or so of us talking. There were two of us being interviewed. And so that was really exciting. It was definitely a career highlight. And then I wanted to say some other events going on. So let's see. I have a calendar open here. One moment. Make sure I get my right page. One moment. Okay, so we're in March. Today's actually, or this afternoon was the last DIY craft shop to go for the season. That takes a break while we switch to summer programming. And then we've got our regular programs through the end of this month, including the 6-word story contest, goes through the 22nd. Again, thank you to Melanie for being a judge on that. Oh, I see you have your hand up. Sorry, I didn't know.
Oh, that's okay. I just put it up. No, I just wanted to ask, when you get the podcast link, will you send it to us, but also potentially out to library patrons as well? I think they would just love to hear that.
Thank you. I'll send it to you for sure. I'll see what it says before before I send it to everyone. But yes,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Okay.
I'll probably at least put it on. We have a library website. I think you've all seen sherwoodoregon.gov/library/DEI for diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'll put it on there too. There's a few things that we have there. Crystal and I co-authored an article. We have that linked there, and Jamie Thorson authored an article that's related that we have posted there. So yeah, I could do that. Thank you. let's see. So for April, we have in-person programming, knock on wood, right? That's all slated to happen. That's our series where we have the how-to series. There's an easy car maintenance and repair, easy how-to easy job search and interview tips, and how-to easy nutrition and food safety. Those are the first 3 Saturdays in April in person. Teen Lab has been doing in person for a little while now. Our citizenship classes are back in person again, and that's a 10-week series, I think it is, or 7-week series. It goes for a while. The book clubs are starting to come back in person in April and May. There's going to be some hybrid programs too. We still have some things that are going to be virtual. So the Family Storytime Online will continue in April, but Family Storytime will be brought back in person in May. And then we have a personal finance workshop that will be virtual in April. And then May, things will continue like that. The how-to series was a one-off, but we'll have computer classes will be in person again. We've got intro to Microsoft Word and intro to Excel. And then we've already had our in-person tech help appointments that have just quietly been in person again as needed. So things are, returning. It doesn't feel exactly normal, but it's returning. And then June, July, August will be summer reading. So we'll have a lot of outdoor events that will of course be in person for those. We have plans in September, but we're trying to be very flexible about just thinking things could change and we don't really know. Let's see, I'll switch gears to talk about COVID and our strategic focusing areas here too. Let me cue that up. So in terms of COVID and the mask mandate lifting, of course, that applies here as well. So the Sherwood, let's see, I didn't bring this one up. The statement we have on our website is matching what the city manager and the HR manager gave all city employees. And so the phrasing we're using is masks are optional for employees and for visitors. We will continue to encourage and support volunteer masking by employees and community members who choose to wear face coverings to protect themselves. Additionally, we will continue to provide masks in public areas. So that means when you come in, either entrance you come in, there's a little bowl of masks still. It's just like there were before. In fact, we have face shields still too, if anybody wants one of those. Everything else is the same. Curbside is still available just like it was. We have still the hand sanitizer and the plexiglass shields. We're going to keep all of that up, of course. And then what I can say in terms of what we've noticed, it's so soon, it's hard to say for trends, but on Saturday, the first day of no masks or masks optional rather, it was about 40% of the people who were wearing masks and about 60% who were not. We had a lot of patrons who came in and said, I haven't been here in 2 years. It's so great to be back. And we had a lot of people who came in and said, I've had these books out for 2 years and I'm really sorry and I'm coming back and here they are. And so that surprised me. I didn't realize how many people had stayed away just apparently because of the mask mandate. And then we didn't have any complaints. We were a little bit concerned because last time in the summer when the mask mandate was lifted, we did actually have some people who were worried about their own safety and that kind of thing. And that wasn't an issue. And then we have a mix of staff who are wearing masks and not wearing masks, and that went fine as well. Yes, Steve.
Question, because I've been keeping, it was interesting because I've been keeping track of what our schools are doing in town here. But if we go to like the new CDC red at the county level, do we go back to required masking or is it still optional?
So it's a good question. What we've been following all along is, what the state mandate is, and then what county health has. I mean, they could deviate from the state, but they've always followed whatever the state has said about masking. And Oregon OSHA, in terms of employees, we haven't had a point where that's been different, but it could be. The county has, over the time of the pandemic, the county's given us quite a bit of custom advice in terms of the risk level here locally, more about, I think when we knew different, or when we know things differently now. We know different things now than we did then. At the beginning, we were more concerned about surfaces, quarantining materials, social distancing. We're still social distancing on staff to a great degree, but we're not quarantining materials anymore, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that answers your question exactly. It's more like, if the state were to say masks are required, then I would expect the city would then.
So yeah, so you're looking at Washington County then, or the state? Yeah, it's just interesting because the federal guidelines make it sound like it's required, and then but apparently there's some wiggle room there. It's more like strongly recommended. So I'm just curious to hear what the library's plans if we happened. I mean, we're like green right now, right? But if the county went back to sort of that CDC red designation, if there were any pre-plans for how the library would proceed in terms of masks.
Yeah, it's like, imagine a trickle down effect. So there might be federal guidance, but then OHA would be the one to make the state guidance, and then county health might weigh in about county guidance, and then the city. And so as a library, I'm not making the decision.
Sure.
Sometimes I'm waiting, going like, I'd like to know. I know, and we can.
So you've not been given a heads up is the point. It's more of a wait and see. Perfect.
Yeah.
He likes to plan. Okay, great.
I know. I did a lot of that earlier, and I was told, just wait. Good question. Let's see. So where was I at? So COVID. So things have been going well. I think, we're seeing a lot of happy people coming in, no issues. We're trying to be flexible. That's just kind of it. We're planning for as if this is going to stick around, but we're also keeping our curbside options and knowing that we might have to change things up again. So, and then I'll bring up that strategic focusing list here. Let's see, I think I turned and Councilor Browse was gone. I didn't get to say goodbye. Right? Okay. Oh, I see. She said she did right. It got loud here. She's going to sign off. Okay. Okay, good. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you the focusing updates again. Do you see that? Okay. All right, so where we're at under Restore in-person services, this is largely what I was talking about with programming. So this is mostly planned for April and May. Restoring the in-person services, so the most underserved, at this point, we're seeing people with the computer needs and the citizenship classes. Those were our priorities for getting in-person programming, as well as the teen lab that already had gone in person, because teens and what we know, nationally about teens and mental health during the pandemic. And then in-person computer classes, that's coming up in May. The new series is launching next month. The story times, we didn't want to start story times immediately after spring break, because knowing that those are kiddos that may not be vaccinated yet, or the vaccination for the youngest children isn't available yet, and we have polled many families and asked them, and there's a mix of people who are like, yeah, I'm really excited about it, and people who say, no, I'm going to keep doing Zoom, and people who say, well, I'll go, but only if it's like just a few families, and so on. And so there's a lot more hesitation that we're hearing about that service. What we are planning is when it comes in person in May, that we'll do like an all ages family story time. We're actually going to do, and this is subject to change, I should say, like this has been the idea for about a week, but we'll see if it sticks. But then we'll do 2 family story times, so same target age group, where it could be, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. and then do 2 back to back, but keep the group sizes really small and limited. So if someone comes to I think it would be 10, 15, and 11, I think, on Thursdays. So if they come to one and think, no, that's too busy for me, I'm going to hold back and wait. Or if it was already at the maximum and they could go to the next one. So I think that will help keep things a little bit smaller, and because the kiddos that age, you can't say just sit here and don't mingle. They're gonna be all over the place, right? So that's why we're thinking that. And then we're working on bringing the writing workshop back too. I don't know when that is yet, but that would be in person, and that was a really popular series. So the polling of virtual participants, we've already done all of that, and I mentioned the tech help is going to. The computer access, we're going to keep the every other computer for now. Right now, we're not seeing that that's causing a big problem in terms of meeting demand. If that changes, we'll reevaluate. But and my sense of it is that, yes, the masks are going away, but COVID's not entirely gone, and some social distancing, especially when you're sitting there for more than 15 minutes, or 30 minutes, an hour, could be a really nice safety feature to make people feel more comfortable. But if we're getting issues with demand, we could bring those back. This one, the new technology, that's still in the works, and we are promoting the hotspots. In terms of policies, I don't have a draft policy for you yet. That will be coming later. The onboarding for new staff, I do have something scheduled for early next month with 3 of our new staff. And the deeper EDI training is coming end of April. I spoke about that last time. That's the from advocate to, no, that's the wrong term. From ally to advocate, that's still the wrong term. Anyway, it's like a bystander training, and that's from Ty Hardin Moore. And then we haven't started these other 2 yet, but this one, in terms of supporting staff, the part that's bold, I don't feel like we've necessarily focused on yet, but this encourage library career paths, this actually touches on the next topic too. I wanted to let you know about the internship grant. And so the Oregon Library Association, or excuse me, the State Library of Oregon has a small grant that we just applied for to provide a paid internship, a paid teen internship for summer. And they're specifically asking for really targeting marketing for diverse applicants, and to have a focus on equity and different things that help encourage career paths, but also encourage career paths with diverse teen students. So we're hoping we get that. It'd be our first paid internship if we do that. Let's see, the translation interpretation services, that starts next fiscal year. I do have some census data. I'll speak more about that. Just working to see, do we have anything else? This is all kind of ongoing. No major progress on this section yet since last meeting. Any questions so far? Okay. I feel like I'm talking, oops, excuse me. I feel like I'm talking really fast.
Agent,
Okay.
the one thing I was going to comment
Yeah.
on, I guess, was, you're mentioning some hesitancy with the, kids services with the story time. It's I don't know, I've been following this a lot just because, I have family and friends impacted. And yeah, I think the littles vaccine might be some time, and even the under like the 5 to 11, they're finding it's waning really quickly. So we might have some continued challenges there if people are following that, or it's, they're not looking as strong, or I think that might delay the youngest one quite a bit as well, because I think they're trying to figure this out. So it just in terms of impacting the library, that concern might be here for a long time or not, but if the vaccine is what's, making people hesitant or not being available rather.
That's good to hear. I hadn't heard that about the age 5 to 11 one not being as effective. I heard the booster, the next the second booster for the 65 and up is like working its way through the approval process.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
take a look. It's based off of some research that's coming out of New York. It's pretty preliminary, but it looks like it drops pretty significantly even after the first month. So it's concerning. Yeah.
Yeah. My son is in that category.
Yeah, I got two.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. Well, thank you. I'll have to look into that some more. Let's see. So other topics. I'll stop sharing this. Let's see. 1 second. Stop share. I want to let you know about the Friends of the Library, some updates there. So financially, they're bouncing back well. They make their income predominantly through the sales of the used books here on site, and then they did get they have a donation pledge that's coming in soon from the Rebeccas, which is another nonprofit in Sherwood, and the Rebeccas just pledged $500 to go to the Friends of Sherwood Library, to go to Sherwood Public Library for our summer reading program, which is great because we had asked our friends group for less because they're bringing in less money during the pandemic, and so this is going to offset that to be able to kind of bridge a financial gap, which feels really good. So we're very grateful to the Rebeccas. And then I mentioned that podcast that I did. Oregon Library Association also offered a stipend, and as a public employee, I can't accept stipends, but I can have it go to the Friends. So a $200 stipend is going to our Friends group, which will go toward adult summer reading, also filling in that gap that we had. So that feels good as well. And then lastly, I wanted to let you know that the Public Library Association conference is going on next week. It actually starts a week from today, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's both an in-person conference and a virtual conference. This year, we're sending some staff to both. So we have some people going in person. We have some people who will go, who will participate virtually live, and then everybody has access, everybody who's attending has access to the virtual recordings for 1 year. So there are a number of ones that I thought were really interested for some of the facility planning that we're doing and some of the equity work that we're doing. So I hope that as I get a chance to go through those, that I'll have some new ideas to share and some recommendations. There's a lot of great equity focused sessions too that staff are going to, including things like diversity audits and some things about there's also some I'm going to about policies and just a number of great ideas. So it's rare that there's a National Library Conference in Portland. It's too bad it's during the pandemic. It's also during spring break, so I'm not going to attend live. You'll hear from me as I'm getting caught up on it afterwards. And let's see, I think that's all I had for kind of the regular updates.
Adrienne?
Yes.
How many people usually attend that conference, the national conference?
Do you mean like from our library, or
no, just like
yeah?
Is it a large conference?
It is. It's a big conference. I don't remember. So the PLA is the second largest conference that happens in the country, and then ALA, American Library Association, is the largest. And I kind of have this vague memory that 20,000 people is what ALA would get pre-conference. I don't know if that seems right or not. And I think PLA was a little bit less. Does that sound reasonable for anybody that goes to big national conferences? 20,000? I don't remember. Yeah. When I went to PLA in February 2020, it was in Nashville, and it was really fun. And then the next month we were shut down, for COVID. So, yeah, that's a good one. Alrighty. So should I go on, or any other questions?
I think we can move on to the statistics.
Okay. So I have most of my February statistics. I don't have all of them quite yet. Let me share this as well. One second. Do you see a spreadsheet coming up? Yeah, good. Okay. So where we're at for total checkouts, let's see, let me make that a little bigger. So we're in this column over here. Total checkouts, which includes digital, is it's 51% over last year, but in terms of compared to pre-pandemic, it's nearly the exact same number. So effectively a 0% change, which I mean, I should be happy, but I was like, oh, we were actually on this upward curve of, beating our pre-pandemic numbers. So I'm like, well, I wonder what that's all about. Physical checkouts seems to be where that's stemming from the most. So physical checkouts compared to pre-pandemic, we're down 13%. So here's pre-pandemic 26,000 and right now almost 23,000. So it's minus 13%, whereas before we'd been a little bit smaller of a decline there. Digital checkouts are still doing really well, 73% over pre-pandemic, and it's compared to the previous year, it's down a little bit, but not in a huge way, considering that this time last year we didn't have very many people coming in and checking out physical materials. So that seems good and solid still. And then if I scroll down, so for the collection, this is as expected. Our full collection size now is 53,353. This is actually a number I want to see because we had gotten behind on weeding through the materials that were worn out or not popular anymore, and our shelves were getting too tight, but yet we still wanted to buy the new materials. So this is a good thing that this is going down because we can't really sustain adding and not subtracting. Our percentage of items that are currently in is still staying about the same, about 72%. And I added this row because it's been coming up in some of my work meetings about the number of items lost each month. So I can go back retroactively and fill that in. But as of the first of the month, we had 512 items in lost status. And then I don't have the computer statistics yet. The door count, I'm not sure about this. Our door count, you might remember I said they were unavailable and I had to do some estimates because one of our gates was down and then the other gate was down and the first one was fixed and so on. And they say they're both fixed, but it just, when they recover some of that data, it's not always accurate. So I averaged two things to get this and it still seems kind of high. So depending on what the number is for March, I'll trust the number for February more, if that makes sense. I know it's been getting busier. I just don't know if it made that big of a jump. I don't have the curbside visit number ready for you tonight, but I think it's about the same. We didn't hear that with the mask mandate lifting in the last several days that curbside's gone up significantly, but it was so small anyway. I mean, it could double and, be 30 and still be pretty small. So that I have, and then I think that's all I have so far. I'm still working on the other ones. Yeah. So I'll get you fuller numbers for next time. I'll stop sharing that. And then census data. So you may recall with the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, we talked a lot about census data and how that was a missed opportunity. And then you may recall I'd been speaking with the planning department or community development and planning department, and they do a lot of work with census data. And so they were coming up with a report. Let me just make sure. I thought I had this up, and let me just make sure I have what. And so I have what they prepared. I still want to dig in deeper to this because I think for our purposes, first I thought, oh, that's going to be enough. And then I was like, no, there's more that we can get into. And I started some of that, but I haven't gotten all the way through yet. So I can show you what I have and know this is just sort of a first pass over it. I don't know if anybody heard or has been following in the news as well. Oh, and I see, oh, thank you, Crystal. Nash, I keep tabs on the chat. Crystal wrote in Nashville PLA, so that was the one right before COVID, had 9,000 attendees. Oh, good, thanks. Regarding census data, you may have been hearing in the news, there was some follow-up surveying done to measure the accuracy of the census data. And in that follow-up surveying, it's been discovered that white people were overcounted and people of color were undercounted. And the overall population number, while where those population numbers were coming from was inaccurate when it's all totaled, it looks like it ends up being pretty accurate. But in terms of the race and ethnicity data, that's not as trustworthy as first thought, which does affect the federal distribution of funds that go to communities. And so I think that will be really interesting to follow in terms of how, if any if any additional surveys are done, or if there's anything more to say, that we can apply locally. Sherwood, is less diverse than many other areas of the county. And so maybe if there are errors that are for our community, perhaps those errors aren't as, I don't know, maybe they don't impact funding quite as much because our percentages are different already or less than. I don't know. I just want you to be aware that like, I think with any data, we should always kind of have a, questioning mindset too, like, where did the data come from and how useful is it, and do we take this with a grain of salt or not just trust data 100% without thought. So, but that's what I wanted to say about this. So I will share my screen. 1 second. All right, do you see another spreadsheet? Okay. So we'll make that a little bigger. Okay, so for what we have for race, so again, this is Sherwood. So this is Sherwood, city of Sherwood. Our service area extends a little bit beyond that. And so if this data is incorrect, it's going to, and if it follows this additional research that was done, then the white percentage could be bigger than it should be, and some of these other percentages may be smaller than they should be. But this matches what I was expecting. And last time the census was done, it was about 9 in 10 people in Sherwood were white, and so for it to be 8 in 10 kind of matches anecdotally that we're seeing more diversity. I thought maybe it would be even more people, in these other categories, and maybe there are. And then for housing units, most people are in a 1-unit structure, more of a traditional detached home. And average household size, 2.93, average family size, 3.46. Mostly owner occupied housing units. This is similar to what it was last time. Median housing cost over $400,000. Median age 36.3. I didn't compare this, but I think this might have gone up a bit. We're usually below the state average because all those young people, it's such a family focused town, and all those young people bring that number down. And then still highly educated population over 25 years old who have education attainment at these different levels. So you see, like if I were to say, well, who has some college or an associate's, bachelor's, graduate, or professional degree, all of that total, I think that's 82. Is that what it's off my screen a little bit there. Median household income is now $103,000. Mean travel to time, 28.4. So it's still, a bedroom community. People are commuting to Portland and even McMinnville and Salem and so on. And then workers 16 and over in households with number of vehicles. I think planning, they care more about that. I don't usually think about this with libraries so much, but we could as we think about how Sherwood's growing and getting across 99 to get to the library. Speaks English only, 16,000 people. So if we go back up, well, let's see. I guess she didn't have, that's the actual population is not listed on here, is it? I didn't catch that. And then for languages, speak a language other than English, Spanish. I want to get more granular than this. Like to me, 842 people, that's a lot that's falling under this big umbrella term. And I want to get more granular than that. And same with the Asian Pacific Islander and other. So we'll work on that. But that's what I have so far. Yes, Melanie.
Can you go back up to the very top?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, that's not adding up to 100%, is it? The race got the 80 and then 90. Where is the other 10%?
84, 85, 86, 87. Yeah, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. That is adding up to 89. Yeah.
I would think that Hispanic would be in there somewhere.
So they have a separate question that's Hispanic, non-Hispanic, separate from race.
Right, but it seems like, would that be in here, or is that because it should be included in white, but then I often see the split within this. So I wonder if that's where the rest of that percent. I know anecdotally that would make sense to me at that proportion. But
I'm gonna just make a list over here. So we want to add, well, percentage race numbers, and Hispanic numbers. I want to do more granular languages. Melanie, do you have your hand up again, or is that a new question?
No, I don't have a new question. I'll take that down.
Okay.
I think you would want to also add just total population there somewhere.
Oh yeah, total population.
Yeah, I was actually trying to look that up for us.
Oh yeah.
1,000.
I'm gonna just put a general note to follow, the data credibility. I don't know what to call it. Solutions. Yeah. Randy, can I put you on the spot? Are you talking about census data at your work?
We're always talking about census data at our work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, we've got a call center. It's called the Aging and Disability Resource Network, and we are implementing what's called Real D, which is essentially an enhanced demographic data that we have to collect from every single caller that calls in, and it's extremely detailed. Detailed to the point where some consumers are pushing back a little bit in terms of the questions that we're asking. But so yeah, we're doing that in an effort, obviously, to see who we're serving, who we're not serving, and why we're not serving them. And it's a federal requirement, so it's passed down through the dollars that we receive through the federal government to the state to us. So a lot of census data and demographic data is being collected. Probably more than you wanted to hear.
No, that's useful. Thank you. Have you been talking about these inaccuracy issues that have been coming up?
We've been touching on it, and again, it's part of that effort to collect more accurate data from the consumers that we serve, because we know that a lot of underserved populations don't report on the census for a variety of reasons. So Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. That's useful. Fritz, were you going to say something a moment ago? You're muted.
I just had a brief question on our, well, I don't know, I guess regarding population, but mainly our patrons. Do we know like how many are retired patrons under 18? Maybe, or maybe if we get information from this on the census, it'd be interesting to know sort of the age groups within Sherwood, and then working versus retired, say, but of course in COVID, a lot of people weren't. I mean, it's all messed up because of COVID.
Yeah, so we, in terms of library accounts, I mean, I don't know how easy it is to get this, but most of our library accounts have an age, have a birth date, and we could extrapolate, without using confidential data, we could like say, we should be able to get what are the ages of our patrons, what percentage of them are under 18 or under 10 or
whatever. And then, for forward looking, because then when you see, say, what age, say, for example, 60 to 70, for example, and then as you add each year, that everybody's getting older. And so is the patron group becoming much more huge for retired people? Are there trends there for, and are there a lot of kids in the population of Sherwood? Is it changing? We're having many, many more children within our population to really keep the children's library beefed up? Because of, I guess school data would tell us that, wouldn't it? How many kids in school?
Well, there's so many homeschoolers, so it would.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
There is census data in American census. What is it? The ACS. Between the 10-year census, there's other, census reports, and there is well, not necessarily retirement, but there's employment data. And so I can look into that. And then the age groups for Sherwood patrons.
Would there be any benefit to looking at percentage of usage by age range? You may have 50% of the people 50 plus, but if they're only accounting for 15% of the usage, I don't know if that would be of any benefit.
I mean, I think whether or not it's of any benefit, I don't know if I can get that data. I don't know if I can, like the tools that we have don't let you just mix anything you want, where it's like, oh, if I had different tools, maybe I could. But I can get like percentage of our patrons who use the library every month. It's usually, I think it's usually around 3,500 people use their card each month or something like that. But I don't get that report broken down by age or anything. It's just by, it's just some totals. I think it might be able to be broken down by when they got their card, but that's not.
So another question based on that, and maybe somebody here would know this, is that our service area population growing by like leaps and bounds? And I mean, is it just, I mean, maybe the city has those, maybe Renee has those numbers, but like, is it just, is the area exploding in population? I mean, when you see the building around, you sort of think, yes, but is it? And then is the library keeping up? I mean, then that's the thing, is the library keeping up with this exploding population, if that's happening?
Yeah, I can see how much I can look backward. And I think planning has some of that. My understanding is, Sherwood, 15 years ago it was going up really quickly, and now it's growing, but it doesn't feel quite exponential like it was before. So the growth percentage, it's still growing, but not as fast as before. So does anybody remember?
Okay.
Is
So we're
that like,
already, okay.
yeah, Sherwood was what, 9,000 people in the year 2000? That's, I don't know if that's quite right, but that's kind of what's coming to mind. It's been, or 2005. Anybody been
Where are we
here
now?
since then?
18. Are we at what, 18 now? Something like that, 19?
It's a little over 20,000. I looked it up,
Oh, it is?
20,496.
Okay, 20,000. Okay.
Fun. Okay, well, we'll keep revisiting census data. How am I doing on time? Where are we at here?
We're right on
7:01.
time because we don't
Okay.
have Counselor Brouse's, but I think
Oh,
it's time
right.
to move on
Okay.
to intellectual freedom. Yep.
Okay. Okay, good. Let me stop sharing this. I'm gonna get a quick sip of water. Okay, so I put this on the agenda because we had so many questions and just so much going on locally and nationally about censorship and book banning and so on. And every month, someone's asking me, has anything happened? Is anybody coming and complaining? And so I thought, let's do a little bit more discussion about intellectual freedom and some of the terminology and some of the different values and so on. And this is something we usually revisit there's a few different pieces from American Library Association that we usually revisit periodically and kind of affirm our support of, and so that will build us up to that as well. This is going to mean I'm going to be sending homework, so I wanted to introduce it and give you kind of a preliminary view, and then there'll be some reading. Let's see, so one moment. First I wanted to show couple different things. So one is the Library Bill of Rights. One is the Freedom to Read statement. And then I also have a vocabulary sheet that I'll be sharing as well. And so I just want to make sure I have that where I think it is. So the vocabulary one I think is actually interesting. I'm going to send a marked up version of this where I've just highlighted the words that I think are most applicable for where we're at and what our needs are. So I'll share my screen here. So what I was thinking is I'll give you these 3 documents. Maybe give yourself between now and the next meeting, like depending on how fast of a reader you are and whether you want to take notes or anything, maybe 20 minutes to read through them. And then we'll go forward from there. So this one is from United for Libraries, which is under the American Library Association, tools for trustees. Many libraries, like a big library system that's not part of city government, they might have a board of trustees where I would be actually reporting to a board of trustees and you would be approving the budget and so on. So this is meant for that group. Terms and definitions related to intellectual freedom and censorship. And so there's some words that we kind of use interchangeably and do have in some cases the same meaning, in some cases different meanings. So a ban would be if something's removed from the library based on objections of a person or group. And sometimes in our library, a book would only be removed if it goes through an official process, of course. And I will tell you, if even if it hasn't reached the point of needing to go through a process, if anybody comes to me and says, hey, I don't think this should be in your library, and I have a conversation with them, they want to proceed, I'm going to notify you all. Even if it hasn't come up, I haven't had one of those conversations, and I've never had to have one of those forms filled out here or at my last library. I've had maybe 2 or 3 conversations where someone thought maybe they were going to want to have book banned, and then they decided no, my questions were answered. So, and then censorship could be, restricting public access to a library resource. It doesn't have to be a material that's removed, but that public access is restricted based on a person or group's disapproval of its content or its author or creator. A challenge would be, that's when the person, a patron, let's say, attempts to have a library resource or program removed or access to it restricted based on the objections of a person or group. So a challenge doesn't mean that it's been removed. The challenge is they're asking for it to be removed, and they're asking for it in a very formal way. So for us, it would be written and documented, and then that would start a review period, and there'd be this review period and then a formal decision and so on. So something could be challenged, but maybe nothing happens after that other than saying, here's our decision. It's to keep it, or maybe it's to keep it and move it elsewhere. So that's why it says challenges sometimes lead to censorship. So I'm going to give this all to you so you can read. I'm kind of paraphrasing a bit, but I just wanted to point out those three. These are in alphabetical order, not necessarily the order in which, they happen. A complaint maybe is early on. Someone says, I don't think you should have this, but they don't actually challenge it being in the library. So that's less than. I thought this was interesting. I learned something new. So critical race theory, CRT, this is the definition I knew about, which is a framework and or analytical tool primarily used in university level courses, originating in the 70s. So it's really for higher level learning. It's not part of the social studies curriculum at the K-12 level. And then down here, there's another CRT. I didn't know about this one, but this is culturally responsive teaching. So it's good to clarify if someone does say CRT, what is it that they're talking about? Censorship, this one is a longer one, but also good to review. And there's some things here that will dovetail into future conversations, like equal and equitable access to information and services. You can read the whole thing if you want, but I'm just going to give you, sorry, I'm going fast. Let's see, filtering software. The reason I put this as a highlighted term is because the software we have on our public computers does have filtering on it. It doesn't filter everything that it's not filtered at what's called a child level. It's filtered so that something considered obscene or pornography or gambling, that's going to be filtered, but it doesn't have filters that would filter out, let's say, homework help or someone might, or homework cheating kind of things. Whereas if it were in a kids area at a school library, they would filter even more than that. There is mention to CIPA, Children's Internet Protection Act, an E-rate. We don't receive an E-rate discount, which is a federal program, and so we are not obligated to follow CIPA. And then harmful to minors comes up in our library sometimes because of the location of our computers. So even though the computers are kind of this general all ages pod of computers, they're really close, physically speaking, to the children's area. And you can't get to the children's area without walking by the public computers. And so that's why they're filtered at the level they're at. In some libraries, let's say if they had an upstairs for the adults and there's a computer lab there and the children's area is way over somewhere else, they don't have to worry about being in compliance with something being harmful to minors, whereas we have to. And then I highlighted these two terms, hate group and hate speech, because that's been coming up in some of our conversations about the collection policy. Inclusion, because we also talk about that a lot with diversity and equity. Intellectual freedom, which this is really all part of, and I'll come back to that. And obscenity, so obscenity has a legal definition, whereas pornography doesn't really. So when we say obscenity in our behavior policy, we talk, and in the technology, what's it called? The technology policy talks about obscenity not being allowed. And so it shouldn't be an issue on the computers, but if something got through the filters, it could be. And then parental rights. So let's say a parent complains, I don't think my kiddo should have access to this. They have a right to that. We might not be able to control it, but we can't be in parentis locus. Is that how I say it? Where we can't be the parent and do that, but we encourage them to be involved in what their children are checking out or accessing. But that doesn't mean a parent has a right to affect the access of other children because of something that they disagree with. And privacy, we talk about a lot too, that's a major component to libraries where we want everybody to have equal access and freedom to access, but to do so privately, with confidentiality. There we go. And then request for reconsideration, that's also another term, challenge and request for reconsideration. So if someone says, I don't think you should have this, I want to start a challenge, and then we're going to give them a form that's a request for reconsideration form. And then that form is what prompts this committee to evaluate the material. Weeding, we talk a lot about too. Sometimes people want to know what we're weeding, and that came up with the collection development policy. So that's when we're removing materials, usually because they're worn out or they're not popular anymore, or people aren't using them, they've been replaced by something more current, that kind of thing. So that's it. So it's an alphabetical list. Welcome to read all of it if you want to. But I thought at least if you read through those highlighted ones, that will be helpful for future conversations. And then I have a couple other things to show you too. But before I move, do you have any questions about this or any comments?
I missed it, Adrienne. Did you say you were going to email this to us, like a link or? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'll email it as a PDF.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I can send it as a link too. I mean, I downloaded it as a PDF because I wanted to be able to highlight it. Yeah. Okay. And then the other document, let's see, 1 second here, that I wanted to show. So I will email this to you as well, so that if you could read this, and then at the next meeting, we can talk about, renewing our support of the Library Bill of Rights. So this one's shorter. This is kind of standard. So anybody going to library school, like we start off Library 101, is like the Library Bill of Rights, and usually we look at this. I don't know, I think we've only been doing it every other year or so. So the American Library Association affirms that all libraries are forums for information ideas, and that the following basic policies should guide their services. And then there are interpretations of this. So there are these 7 principles. This goes back to 1939 and different amendments. And then optionally, you can look at these interpretations. There's a link at the bottom. So that's where you start to see kind of more modern and progressive expansions of some of these points. I'm just thinking if I should read any of these right now. Let's look at 1 and 2. So 1, books and other library resources should be provided for the interest, information, and enlightenment of all people of the community the library serves. Materials should not be excluded because of the origin, background, or views of those contributing to their creation. And then 2, libraries should provide materials and information presenting all points of view on current and historical issues. Materials should not be prescribed or removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. I'm going to go for 3 too. Libraries should challenge censorship in the fulfillment of their responsibility to provide information and enlightenment. So there's more there. I'll let you look at that. And then lastly, I'll also send you the freedom to read statement, and this one's a bit longer. So this kind of dovetails with it. Maybe when I said 20 minutes, maybe it's more like 30 minutes of homework. So this one really is about, everybody has the right to information and coming into the library and being able to access that. So if we, the flip side is if we were to remove a book, and let's say the person who asked for it to be removed is happy about that, but now the people who wanted it don't have access to it, and we have a legal obligation to provide access, then we're actually making ourselves liable for not doing our jobs. So there's a lot there. It's big, heavy stuff actually, but I think it's good reminders to do it. Sometimes we assume we're all remembering how it works and why we do it and so on. It's good to look back at it every so often. Any thoughts on all of that? Any questions? Anybody like homework? I don't want homework. I hardly ever give you homework.
It's reading, and we all love to read.
Well, I don't know. I know you're busy, so I appreciate it.
No, definitions and taxonomies, as you all know, are very important. So I appreciate you sharing this information and providing clarification. I guess one question I had is, I think I brought it up last time we met. Are we tracking what's getting banned at the high school libraries? I see much more potential happening, that within Sherwood, and if that affects the Sherwood Public Library at all.
You did mention last time there was conversation. I haven't heard anything. I haven't gone and listened to the school board meeting, so I don't know if anything has progressed. I haven't been contacted about anything in Sherwood. I know there's been some things locally, but I don't know. I mean, locally outside of Sherwood. I did look at, there was an article recently about across the country and what's happening in the different states, and Oregon wasn't even listed on that one. And not that every single thing was, there's a lot that's not reported or underreported. So what we're supposed to do is, if there's a challenge, if it reaches the point of that form, regardless of what happens, what the decision is, we're supposed to report that to the state library, and then it gets reported nationally. And that's where some of those numbers about that we see during Banned Books Week and so on come from. But not everybody reports those things. And so when we look at numbers or try and find out what's happening, it might not be shared.
Okay.
Certainly, if any of you hear something happening in Sherwood, I'd love to know, through the schools or something, I'd love to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just briefly share. And I mean, I think public comments certainly can be taken with a grain of salt, right? And there's that common misconception, which I'm glad your document points out, that, critical race theory is being taught, at the K through 12 level. Though it is interesting, I mean, there has been some conversations, particularly from two of the new board members that have been challenging some of the things that the new diversity and equity and inclusion director has brought up as strategic objectives. So I could see, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, these seem to be related items. So I have some concerns that, they may sponsor some policy making decisions that kind of go along with some of these national trends. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I'm making myself a note too. I need to reach out to the new diversity officer for the schools.
I'm sure she would appreciate your support based on how well you champion and how some of the challenges she's had from the community and the school board. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And
Is there any other business to address?
I don't have anything else. I mean, if I could just say, like, as a reminder about next month. So next month, the plan is we're meeting in person. I already have the community room booked, and so I do need to edit the Outlook calendar invitation. Right now it still has the Zoom link on it. So April 20th, Wednesday, same time, different place, 6:30 p.m. For those of you who haven't had an in-person meeting with us, if you park in the parking lot there on the back side, come in through those doors. It's going to be your first door on the right. What I'll do, hopefully, and I don't know what the IT restrictions will be, if any. What I was planning to do is have like a big, either kind of open rectangle of tables or a U or something, so it could still be spaced out. Masks would be optional, but I don't know if IT is going to need us to sit like a certain way for cameras, or if we have to do that, or how that works. So there's still a lot I don't know. But certainly, you know, if you want to wear a mask, that's fine. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine as well. If you need a mask, I'll have those. If you want to use a face shield, if you could give me a heads up, I could have one of those for you. If maybe you want to be maskless, but with a face shield. And then I was thinking I'd go back to having snacks and tea again like we used to. Yeah.
Fritz, you're muted.
Question is, because this is the first time being, you know, on the board. So is there like, do we get like dressed up? We don't have to wear sweats. We don't wear slippers. We wear shoes. Do we bring cookies? I mean, what do we do?
Shoes or flats?
It's black tie. Actually.
Black tie. We have to wear a dress. Okay, it's formal.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Warm.
Okay.
So I mean, people just, you know, it's not formal.
Yeah, I know.
The only time I've ever given any kind of dress code information is that one in December when we used to have the boards and commissions dinner, and that was like people would dress up a little bit more for that. So, but it is going to be still streamed to YouTube, so you know, for what it's worth. Hi, Maggie. Nice to see you.
Do you want me to bring cookies? I'll bake chocolate chip cookies if you want.
I would eat a cookie.
Sure. Yes. I will turn you down, Fritz.
Okay.
I second that.
Yeah. Motion to approve.
I'll bring cookies. Okay.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, it'll be nice to see you all in person. Or for those of you, if anybody, you know, once we know more, if any of you stay at home and Zoom in, you know, I really appreciate all of your engagement and participation.
But you won't get cookies.
All right. All right, then I'll consider. Are we ready to adjourn, Adrian? All right. Well, the meeting will adjourn at 7:49 p.m. Thank you all. It was nice to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.